What's up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today we're going to be talking about COVID relief funding programs. Because as we see here today in May of 2021, more and more programs are beginning to run out of money. Most notably and most recently, the Paycheck Protection Program, which announced last week that they have exhausted most of their funds for that program. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down which programs you can still get funds through. That way you can take advantage of all COVID-19 relief while we still have it. So let's get started. The end of the Paycheck Protection Program was a big deal. And as we sit here today, it is still unclear exactly how lawmakers and how the SBA will respond to this, if they'll respond at all. There is a lot of speculation online and with experts that there is a chance that this could potentially be revitalized because of the fact that there are still tens of thousands of businesses in the PPP pipeline waiting to get PPP funding. And there is some discussion that there is a slight possibility that the SBA or lawmakers could step in to give this program more funding and to extend the deadline once again. Though in my opinion, I think that is probably unlikely, but I don't think it's out of the question. But just because of the fact that the PPP is over doesn't mean that there aren't other COVID relief programs that you can take advantage of and you can get funding through. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So in this video, I want to break down which programs are left from COVID relief, who these programs apply for, and how to apply for these funds. Now, first and foremost, let's start out with the EIDL loan, or the EIDL loan program. This is a long-term and low-interest loan that is very accessible for a lot of business owners, solo entrepreneurs, gig workers, and people with full-fledged businesses and companies. You can apply through this through the SBA's website directly. And in order to qualify for this, you have to have had a business as of January of 2020. And in addition to just being able to prove that your business existed, you also have to be able to show that your business was generating revenue. This could be in the form of tax documents, in the form of bank statements, invoices, and more. As far as loan goes, and when it comes to the ease or difficulties for getting approved for a loan, the EIDL loan is pretty easy, all things considered. You just need to make sure that you have an eligible business, that business was formed in a timely manner, that adheres to the SBA guidelines, and then you're able to prove that the business is doing the numbers that you say that they're doing. If you're able to do that, then you can apply directly on the SBA's website. If you get approved, then you will have a period of time where your payments are deferred, meaning you will not need to make any payments off of that loan for an extended period of time. And then after that point, you will need to make monthly payments on that loan until the entire thing is paid back. Now, the EIDL loan is a great loan because of the fact that it is fairly easy to get. It's long-term, it's low interest, but it is certainly not the most ideal option because of the fact that regardless of the interest rate and the term of the loan, it's still a loan and that still has to be paid back. And so that brings us to one of the other options, and in my opinion, one of the best options from COVID relief, and that is the EIDL Targeted Grant. Now, the EIDL Targeted Grant is an extension of last year's EIDL Targeted Grant from June and July of 2020. This is a $10,000 grant that does not need to be paid back, and it is being distributed invite only by the SBA. Now, in order to be eligible for the $10,000 Targeted EIDL Grant, you have to be able to prove a handful of different things. Number one, you have to have a business, and the business needs to be formed by the SBA deadline. Number two is you have to be able to prove that you come from a low-income community. This is crucial because at this point in time, the SBA is wanting to fund only the people that need funding the most. And they've determined that this group of people typically would fall under a low-income community bracket. So in order to be approved for this $10,000, you do have to come from a low-income community. And the way that this is determined, the way that low-income community is defined, is by an Internal Revenue Code, which dictates how low-income communities are measured and what is and is not considered a low-income community. If you are interested in learning more about this, I do have videos going into this in a lot more detail. I will include a link to a playlist down below that you can check out, and it will give you more information on the low-income community aspect of this requirement. But in addition to being from a low-income community, you also have to show a 30% gross revenue decline from 2020 from the previous year. And the way that you would have to prove that you have this 30% gross revenue decline is you would have to provide financial documents to the SBA, and those financial documents will dictate whether or not this criteria is met. Now, again, this doesn't have to be like a professional P&L document that was formed by an accountant. It can be something that you created yourself. It can be bank statements. It can be be a simple Excel document. It can be a pile of invoices. There are a variety of different ways that the SBA will accept this documentation, but there does have to be something documenting that a 30% gross revenue decline was achieved. Now, the great thing about the EIDL targeted cash advance is the fact that it is up to $10,000, so it can be a substantial amount of money. In addition to the size of the grant itself, it also is pretty all-encompassing to the people that it can reach. Yes, you do have to be able to show a 30% gross revenue decline. Yes, you do have to come from a low-income community, but other than that, there are a lot of people in a wide range of types of industries and jobs and gigs that could qualify for this. You could qualify if you're a solo entrepreneur with no employees. You could qualify if you have a side hustle. You could qualify if you have a company, if you have a business, if you have an e-commerce store. There are a lot of different ways that you could qualify for this grant. And because of that, even though this is invite only, and even though it's not going to be accessible to every single person that watches this video, I still think that is a great option out there. And if you do think that you are potentially eligible, then I would keep an eye on your inbox, and I would potentially look at exploring a request for reevaluation if you're somebody that was denied. But then that brings us to our third funding option that is still available to those of you who are interested in getting more funding through COVID relief. And this is another form of EIDL funding called the EIDL Supplemental Grant. Now, at this point in time, this is the third grant program that the EIDL program has offered over the last year. We had the first EIDL grant program, which was introduced last year with the CARES Act. This was $1,000 per employee, up to $10,000. Then the second one that we have is the one that I just spoke about, the targeted EIDL cash advance, which is up to $10,000. And then we have this third one, which is the supplemental targeted cash advance. And the point of this supplemental cash advance is to help the most hardest hit businesses that have been the most impacted by COVID-19 and the pandemic. But not just any significantly hit business, significantly hit businesses that are also considered very small businesses. Now, this is a grant that is valued at up to $5,000. And the way that this works in pairing with the other EIDL cash advances is that between these three programs, you cannot get more than $15,000. So you could theoretically get like $1,000 from the first EIDL cash advance that we saw last year. Then maybe you got another $9,000 from the targeted EIDL cash advance. And then you could potentially get another $5,000 from the supplemental targeted cash advance. This is a $5,000 EIDL cash advance, and the way that you can be eligible for this is number one, be from a low-income community. Number two, be able to prove that you had a 50% gross revenue reduction with your business because of the pandemic. And number three, have 10 employees or fewer. Similarly to the $10,000 targeted EIDL cash advance, this one is also invite only. So unfortunately, it isn't going to be open to the general public, and the vast majority of us probably will not receive it. But I have been receiving reports from you guys in the comment sections of my videos that more and more of you have been receiving invites for both of these programs. So even though this isn't the most accessible program, it still is a valid option out there. And if you're somebody that could potentially meet these qualifying factors, then once again, I would keep an eye on your inbox and be ready to apply once you're given the opportunity. The next one is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And I did a video on this about a week ago. And so I'm just going to kind of skate over it here. If you're interested in learning more about this in greater detail, then I will include a playlist down in the description below, and in that playlist you will find the video that I did on this topic. But this is a grant program that is set up for businesses in the food industry, specifically restaurants, food trucks, food carts, breweries, wineries, inns, things like that. Basically, if you're a business and if your business focuses on the sale of drinks or food, and that's the vast majority of your business, selling those items to your customers, then you could potentially qualify for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Now, unlike the previous programs that I mentioned earlier, this is not invite only, which means that if you do have a business that fits this type of criteria, then you could potentially qualify for this and apply on the SBA's website. Now, the one thing that I would really like to stress about this Restaurant Revitalization Fund is that whenever you see the name like Restaurant Revitalization Fund, I think all of our brains go to like restaurants, like traditional casual fast food restaurants. But the fact is that isn't the only type of restaurant that could potentially qualify for this fund. If you have like an at-home bakery, then you could potentially qualify for this. If you have a catering business that you do do on the side, you could potentially qualify for this. If you have some sort of business or side hustle that you do that sells food or drinks to people, you could potentially qualify for this. You don't have to have like a traditional restaurant or traditional storefront. They do accept those non-traditional, more side hustle focused restaurant gigs. And so if you're somebody that has done this in the past, if you have a catering hustle, if you have a small bakery in your house, if you do something in the restaurant industry on the side, then you could potentially qualify for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. In fact, the SBA recently released restaurant revitalization data, and according to the SBA, 186,200 applicants from restaurants, bars, and other eligible businesses in all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and 5 U.S. territories have received funding. In fact, the SBA just released more data on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and according to the SBA, they have received 186,200 applications so far. 97,600 of those applications have come from restaurants owned by women, and 61,700 of those applicants are considered to be small businesses, making less than $500,000 per year in pre-COVID numbers. Now, that statistic of 61,700 applicants making less than $500,000 per year, that may sound like a lot of money, but you have to also take into account that's like the top end of that, and that a lot of those applicants are making significantly less than $500,000, like $300,000, even in some cases $50,000 per year, which was a category that the SBA set money aside for under this Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Now, if you're interested in checking out the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, then you can head on over to the SBA's website. I will include a link to that down in the description below. And the last program that I would like to talk about today is the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, which once again is a grant that you do not have to pay back. It is considered to be free money. Now, the people that are eligible for this grant include live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organization operators, museum operators, motion picture theater operators, and talent representatives. Similarly to the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, if you qualify for this grant program, then you can apply on the SBA's website, and the amount that you could get from this program will depend on a handful of factors. Number one is an eligible entity in operations on January 1st, 2019. Grants will be for the amount equal to 45% of their 2019 gross earned revenue or $10 million, whichever is less. In addition, the SBA has also stated that for an eligible entity that began operations after January 1st, 2019, grants will be for the average monthly gross earned revenue for each full month you were in operation during 2019, multiplied by 6 or $10 million, whichever is less. So theoretically, under this Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, you could qualify for potentially up to $10 million. Of course, that is the high side, and there are many, many businesses that will not get even close to that number, but that is the potential amount that you could be eligible for under this program. But with that being said, you guys, I hope that you found this video helpful. I know that the PPP is over, and that for many of you watching this channel, that may be something that is very disappointing. But the fact is, there are other funding options out there. And even if you don't go with one of the ones that I outlined in this video, there are still other options out there. You just simply need to go look for them. There is always money to be had. It just may require some work and some effort and some searching on your part. But like always, if you have any questions, comments, or if you have anything to add, then make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.